Okay, we are live. Just go ahead and share PowerPoint.
Oops.
There we go.
Okay.
We are. And just to make sure. All right, there we are. We are good to go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Creative Conversations. I'm Elisabeth Palmer, and tonight I am joined by Martin McCaffery, director of the Capri Theater. Before I introduce Martin, I just want to invite everyone to please share comments and questions in the comment section on Facebook. A little introduction for Martin. He became the theater's director in November 1985. And under his direction, the theater began building a new reputation for itself by projecting eclectic, independent, and foreign films. Prior to coming to Montgomery, McCaffery was a projectionist at numerous theaters in the Washington, D.C. area for 9 years, 3 of those years while attending the University of Maryland and receiving a Bachelor of Science degree in journalism. Martin, thanks so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you. Nice to
I'm
be
glad
here.
to have you. I do want to explain our partnership to those at home who may not be aware. The museum had a film program that began in 2017 that screened films about art, artists, museums, and galleries with a short background presentation by staff before playing the film. And then in 2019, the museum and the Capri partnered together to bring art films to our audiences. The Capri would provide the location and the film for the screening, and the museum would give a brief introduction to the film. Usually it was Alice Novak, so for those who attended, you know her presentations well. So that's a very brief background on us, and now we'll move to the Capri. And I want to start, Martin, with you about what brought you to film and being the director of this local theater in Montgomery, Alabama.
Well, what brought me to film was just growing up, and when movies were on TV and stuff like that. And rather than go out and play with the other kids, I'd go and watch movies. So there, and then my parents were in the military, so when we used to watch movies on base and all that, which I rather enjoyed. And then when we moved to the DC area, there was a much greater selection of motion pictures. And as I grew older and was able to drive or take the buses downtown because there wasn't a metro yet, we, me and my best friend from across the street, we'd go down and spend all day in DC going to movies, seeing how many we could see in one day. Never quite broke the 5 in one day mark. That was because we had to rely on the bus system, so the midnight show was out. But so there was that, and then I worked as an usher in local movie theater in Springfield, Virginia, and that's my first employment with actually my first paycheck really, and did that for a year. Went away to college. Could not stay. It was too cold in Milwaukee to stay there, so came back and got a job as a projector. Got a job with the projectionist union as a projectionist, and I was a relief projectionist, which means I worked at theaters all around the Washington area. I would be the person who, when the regular projectionist got stuck in the snow, I had to get to his theater and cover for him, sort of thing, or when they went on vacation or whatever. So it was I learned a lot, saw a lot, and did that for about 9 years, and then came down to Montgomery to visit a friend, and sort of got suckered into taking this job, which I was only going to be here for a couple of years, so why not?
Well, and since 1985, we
1985.
really held on to you.
For 35 years, which is just way too long. I think I'm probably the longest lived person running the same movie theater in the history of Alabama. The average age of a movie theater I've heard is about 15 years, and you don't see the same person working at the same theater for that long in many places. They're mom and pop theaters, but most of those have been wiped out, and so I guess I just win by default.
Well, I think And that's it's a long time, and kind of how your your attitude about it. But with all those years comes, all that knowledge to everything that you've seen, and talking with you through, run throughs and about what we'll talk about tonight, just hearing the stories that you have. And I think that's pretty special, and rare for someone who's been in this position and at a theater that's been able to survive. Um, that's pretty incredible. And that leads me to my next segue about the Capri's history. And you have some slides for us to go through.
Okay. It's a little bit of history of theaters in Montgomery, a very little bit, but yeah, it'll work its way up to through the Clover to the Capri and all that. But just some interesting things I threw together for this. So.
Yeah, appreciate it. So I'm going to start with this first slide.
Right. And this one is, yeah, aha, so the fonts didn't carry over.
No, sorry.
These two things are the first movies that we know of being shown in Montgomery. And the first is from the one that says Kinetoscope in Montgomery, that's partly torn off because that's what the original is like. Was in 1895, February 12th, 1895. And they're going gaga over it, and it takes too long to describe. It's a minute long, but this is a kinetoscope, which is not movies as we know them. It's the old peep show type thing that Edison first came up with, where you'd have to crank it and the pictures would, it's like a really complicated flip book or something. But that would be considered the first movie. And it's important, well, since everything is supposed to relate to everything, it was done in an old abandoned retail space on number 5 Court Square, back when Court Square was different. And the importance of this is, and I don't think anybody else has ever put this together, including the people at the Strand Theater when it was there. The number 5 Court Square later became the Strand Theater, like 15, about 20 years later. I don't think they ever went back and looked and say, hey, for a few days, the first kinetoscope played. So it had that connection, and the Strand Theater was around till the 50s. So that was nice. The other one is for McDonald's Theater, or McDonald's Playhouse, which the great Vitascope at every performance. So that's Edison's first movie thing, where you would project it on a screen. And it would, movies in this period would become part of vaudeville, which is what this is, or actually parts of plays in this particular case. So it really, when you start doing movie theater research, you got to come up with what really is a movie theater. If it wasn't, they weren't really built for movies. Movies were portable then. So they were all part of vaudeville. So vaudeville theater to me is also a movie theater, and lots of other things were movie theaters at the time. The whole Nickelodeon deal was just old storefronts, and I didn't read the date, but this is from November 1896. So that's when the first movies were playing. The Montgomery Theater, which is the one most people remember, which just fell down 5 years ago or something, that had movies advertising movies basically a week or two after this. So I'm pretty sure that these are the first, certainly the first that were advertised. So that's good. McDonald's Theater, I think it's most famous thing it's for, those who even remember, it's where Oscar Wilde performed when he came to Montgomery in 1881. So after spending the night down with Jefferson Davis, that was, so all sorts of, make up your own stories to go with it. But the editors of the newspaper were not impressed with Oscar Wilde, let's put it that way. But he got all the girls, and they were very, very jealous. So, but we're here for the movie. Well, McDonald's went on to become many other theaters over its history. Became the Bijou, became the Majestic, became the Second Empire Theater, came the Majestic several times. The Bijou was allegedly or they claim, the first movie theater exclusively for Black people. That's probably not true. Not movie theater, just theater. It was vaudeville theater then, but then became Tennille's furniture store, and then it burned down. So, so there's no, that was on Bibb Street. It would be, I think, opposite Millow Mushroom or something now, across Bibb Street in the parking, in the corner of that parking lot for the Civic Center. So that's totally gone.
Gotcha.
So those are the early, that's, you know, the really, really early days of movies in Montgomery. And, you know, the Capri, we've got to work our way back up to 1941, where, so we've missed the whole Nickelodeon period, the early periods, the transition periods. But there's plenty we could talk about there, but we're here to talk about the Capri, I guess. So.
Next slide.
Sure, why not?
Let's see what else you found.
Okay. Other things happening in 1941 besides a world war, that was at the end of the year. That didn't count, but I think I just ran across these two back clippings just as I was looking for stuff. If your child is sick, keep it from school, which I thought was real good. But there was a polio epidemic going on then, and then the voting machine myth, which is a clipping about how voting machines can be hacked and cheated. So. You know, everything old is new again. But this big one in front is for Lanier High School Auditorium. And as you can see, it's Philadelphia Story with Katharine Hepburn. This is not the movie. This is Katharine Hepburn live in Montgomery for one day doing, you know, road test of the Philadelphia Story. And this ties into something later. This used to happen. They do these, you know, be in Birmingham one night, Montgomery the next, Mobile the next, or Atlanta, or whatever. I have a tight, a little one-line announcement that the Marx Brothers came through at one point. I haven't found that yet because I'm not that far up in my research, but I did find this one accidentally. And you see, tell it's not the movie. It has Van Heflin, Joseph Cotton, but no Cary Grant. So Montgomery was a happening town in its own way, but yes, Katharine Hepburn was actually here. And I think I have another thing that says this was the first live show in 5 years in 1941. When the Grand Theater closed, it took a long time to close, but the Grand closed in 1930, in the mid-30s. Figuring out when exactly it closed, a little tough because it was open as a rental space, but in the mid-30s it closed, and then there were just no live touring performances. There used to be lots of them. The Grand took over from the Montgomery Theater, and you know, as the McDonald Theater turned into vaudeville and movies, it was up to the Grand to be the play house of Montgomery, and then it went away. So, which happens to most of them. You know, most of what we're talking about doesn't exist anymore. That's the other thing. The Capri still exists. A couple other theaters I'll mention are still around, but we go through a lot of lost theaters.
Yeah. Well, and just how cool, you know, this is to see that they traveled around, and Katharine Hepburn and probably others, you know, performed these.
That was at Lanier High School is a nice part, because they had, I don't know if they still have it, but they had a huge auditorium that was specifically built for, you know, big play productions, and lots of performers would go through the Lanier High School over the years. So.
And you said we don't know if they still have that?
I don't know. I didn't go to Lanier High School, and you know, they don't let me in to walk around and look at things.
That's fair.
So any of you Lanier people, if you want to tell me if that auditorium is still there or if it's been converted into something else, it was big.
Yeah, if anybody knows in the comments, please feel free to shout out. Let's see what else we've got for us. Here we go.
Okay, so here we are in 1941, and this is the opening of the Clover. So we opened as the Clover Theater in July of 1941. We were part of the Wilby Kinsey chain, which owned most of the white theaters in Montgomery, and we have to be sure when we're talking about theaters that, well, be aware of segregation taking on, that there were white theaters and black theaters, and the Capri Theater, since it was built so far out in Cloverdale, was built as a integrated segregated theater, which means the balcony was intended to for the Black audience, which is makes we'll have I'll show you the ad in a second, but these big ads you see there, which you can't really read at home, but they're describing everything about the theater, the colors, the most modern and all of that. But these ones also say the balcony will not be open, which means they 700 seats and we're not letting 250 of them in. Right now the Capri Theater, which we have 200 seats downstairs. We don't have the balcony open either, but that's for totally different reasons. We can't have 200 seats, first of all, and it's really not nice up there now. It still has the original 1941 seats that, stuff with straw. God knows what's living in that. We use the balcony for storage and the projection equipment. So that's what that is. But you can also see they have I'm pointing and you can't see me point. The one side is the journal, one side's the advertiser. The one with the clearer picture of the Clover marquee is from the journal. So that's the
right one.
The one on if you're looking at it, it's on your left.
Oh, okay.
You can see the marquee a lot better there, but you get the same publicity shot of the ushers and the manager. And this woman, the girl at this point, if you look at the picture of pointing again, the five people there under the marquee, that the woman who was there, she worked at the Clover and the Capri for years and years. And I'm not sure she's still alive because she was very old, but when we had an anniversary 5 years ago, I think 5 or 10 years ago, she was still alive. And she had worked at the theater, I think, possibly into the 70s.
Wow.
That is a ridiculously long haul. But now that I think about it, I've been here about that long. So it's not good. And then you have lots of little ads that you can't read, unfortunately, but the contractors and everything took out congratulatory ads. And there is one over there from the Motion Picture Operators and Stagehands Union, which that's IATSE, which I was in when I was a projectionist. But they say it's Montgomery's first neighborhood theater. And for those of you who have read my weekly letters carefully and took notes, that's not true. It wasn't the first neighborhood theater. It was the first one in a while, and the first white one in a while. But the first neighborhood theater was over in Westmont, over on Bell Street, and because Montgomery changed its building numbering system in the 50s, I haven't really calculated where exactly it was. That was in the early 30s. So it's late 20s. So we weren't the first neighborhood theater. We're sort of the first suburban theater. They keep referring to us as a suburban theater in there. And Cloverdale was one of the first suburbs of Montgomery. And they can fight it out with Capitol Heights or another one. There was another one even before that nobody ever mentions, but I don't even think it got built up. It just got advertised as a suburb. So we're way out here. We're way out in the middle of nowhere in Cloverdale. But where you are, or the museum was cow country.
Oh yeah.
I did find a clip the other day that I found amusing from 1932 of people complaining about the cows wandering around Cloverdale. So all those people who complain about the cats. Hey, imagine if they were cows.
Perspective. It's all about perspective.
Yeah. You can eat a cow.
Yeah. Yeah, they frown about eating cats.
Yeah, 32, they don't all have refrigeration, and it's certainly not enough to keep that in the house. But hey, nice barbecue. I don't know.
All right, let's see what else we have. There we go.
And so next, here are the ads I was talking about. Gala opening, that will refer back later, but these are the one on the left as you're looking at it, the one that says colored balcony. That was run on Sunday night, the 13th, Sunday the 13th. By Friday the 17th or Thursday the 17th, the balcony will not be open. So I don't know if the neighbors found out and the knot is pretty emphasized there, that the neighbors found out and did not want this happening in Cloverdale. I do not know when the balcony reopened. We know it did. And it's just one of those things you run across. It's like trying to find the history of Black theaters in Montgomery, because they just weren't covered in the newspaper, almost not at all up until the 60s or 70s, unless there was a crime or a fire. Or there was a period in the 20s when they would do, the theaters downtown would do Lent masses every, a little half-hour mass for Lent. And so one of the preachers would go from the Empire Theater to the Pekin Theater. So the Pekin Theater got mentioned frequently then, just because they were having the prayer sessions. But skipping that, looking at you do see a nice description of how what the theater is: refrigerated, air conditioner, roomy seats, staggered for better vision, and the lavish in appointments. Nothing has been left undone, caring for the comfort of its patron. There's just a lot of hype in the movie business that is really unbelievable when you start to read it.
Oh man.
But it's beautiful, new, and modern. So yeah.
Yes.
And has the ice on the Clover there, and you can watch the Clover logos change. And we've had the same last 4 digits for our phone number since 1941 also.
It's cool. But yeah, these aren't very far apart, and yet their logos are different.
Well, you'll see it change over and over again. And I do like, we also had sound with hearing aid devices. That's with they pumps. There were seats that had basically headphones in them, not all of them, but you'd pick one, and so you'd listen on the headphone to the movie like that. Really comfortable. Yeah. I've worked in other theaters that had those.
Fine. Those are cool. Yeah. Movie ads.
Okay, these are movie ads over the years that I just picked for various reasons. You start with "It's a Wonderful Life," which we show every year. So, and you see it's March 23rd, 1947. Back in the days, you can pretty much measure it from anything before Jaws or Star Wars. There wasn't this idea of mass openings. They wouldn't open everywhere in the country at the same time. They'd have to work their way through. So a nice Christmas movie like "It's a Wonderful Life" took place around Easter in this particular case. And you see it showing at the Paramount, which is the Davis Theater that's still open downtown, or has been restored and reopened, not a movie theater anymore, but the Paramount. But it also shows the same show at the Clover, with yet a new logo, today only. So it was it was playing for 4 big days, which is a pretty long run for a movie in those days. You have to sort of think of movie theaters like television almost. They would play 3 different movies a week generally. And so to hang on for 4 days or be held over was really big. You see Hamlet there, the next one is 5 days. So it just keeps going. The Capri was sort of opened as a second run theater. So they'd play downtown first and then they'd end up at the Capri. So if it's playing the same time as the Paramount, that was extra special. And
yeah, I see that it says the same show is at the Clover today only.
So that was a very, I guess they were expecting overflow or something, or maybe Christmas movies were just really big in March. Yeah. Same with actually the opening film for the Clover, "Love Thy Neighbor." That actually is a New Year's film, and we opened in July. So that you just you get what's available when it's available. That's how that works. So next one is really big and extra special: reserve seat mail orders only. In the days before you could buy online, but you could go down to Jesse French Piano and buy tickets, and that was a fairly common thing going back to the silent era of having tickets available at various places around town, so they could pick them up without having to actually go to the theater. But this is you mail it in with a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they'll mail your tickets back to you, and then you come to the movie. And it's not an uncommon way to do things then, but this indicates, a particular amount of, ooh, we've gone upscale a little bit. And then we have the next one, which we can play this for a contest if you can figure out what the title of the movie is there. But 1957, adult entertainment. And those who have a slight history of the Capri know where this is going. Adult movies labeled adult entertainment or for adults only go all the way back to the silent era. And they played at just about one way or another, just about every theater at one time ran movies that were suggested for adults only or under 18 only. So those, there's literally thousands of movies to play. If you're playing three movies a day for 300, or 3 movies a week for 52 weeks a year for X number of years, there's lots and lots of ads out there, but these I picked for various reasons.
A good variety.
And 3 different logos.
Yes. See that
branding was not their strong point.
They're all over the place.
And it's all over the place with other theaters too. So, but one thing we can throw this in. Yeah, you'll notice it's theater with an RE, and this is one of my favorite bugaboos is people who say RE means it's a live play or RE is the British way. No, it's just the style choice. If you go back and read the articles, the advertiser when they're writing the articles. Use ER instead of RE, but the ads are RE. That's what's on the marquee. So it's just a style thing. There's no significance to theater being spelled with an RE. We spelled Capri Theater with an RE because that was on the marquee when we got here, which you'll see later.
I think we have a guess to what the adult.
Okay, what is it?
It's from Steven Stetson. He's guessing Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Good guess. The apostrophe gives it away, right?
Good job, Steven.
Or he just knows his dirty movies.
Oh, and maybe that too. And he's showing it on the program. Let's see what else you got. Oh, here we go. Oh, more Christmas.
This one, I forgot to put the date on, but this is December 9th, 1955. This is not the Capri. This is the Paramount downtown. But it's something you also see showing up besides Santa Claus and the downtown parties and everything. But the Kitty Care Club with big, bold KKK. Just not, I know 4 days after the bus boycott started, this can't have anything to do with it because this would have been planned a long time in advance. But using KKK initials is a big thing, even if you're not associated with the Klan in those days. And the beginning of the civil rights movement, the Klan is starting to make a comeback there. So just that part of weirdness that you just won't get anymore. And then, of course, if you read the copy, mothers, you have no problem with your children while you shop downtown stores for exclamation point. Leave your small fry at the Paramount Theater free of charge. And you can't get them to do that now. I'm not going to babysit them if they do it here either. The idea that you just drop off your kids at the KKK, but just drop off your kids at the theater and go shopping was a fairly common thing. And when I was an usher, that would happen quite frequently. Unfortunately, little children do not have the concept of a sold out movie, and back when parents would drop. The theater I worked at as an usher showed mostly Disney movies, and it was a 1,000-seat theater that would sell out several times a day. And we would literally clean the lobby with snow shovels. Just
oh my God.
But you drop off an 8-year-old or something, and it's sold out. In the days before cell phones, there's just more things that don't happen anymore. You don't drop off your kid downtown and say bye, which might cut down on the number of kids.
Oh yeah,
free candy and bubble gum from strangers too. So, but Santa's there, so it's got to be safe, right?
It's fine. Santa's there. Everything is fine. Let's see what else we got. Oh, here we go.
And there we go. We're converting from the Clover to the Capri. And the one on the right there, the Capri Theater opens. You can see the advertiser spells it ER, but if you look up on the marquee, what I'm seeing, the picture is blocked by you actually, or both of us in the corner. But it says theater it says Capri Theater with an RE up there. And this is December 21st, 1962, or the picture isn't, it's the day before. I have the other ad on there just to show. It says soon to be your new Capri at the Clover Theater with yet another logo. But that's a November ad, and they made the change over to the Capri by just over a month from when that ad came out. So it took them a month to announce it. They closed for a couple weeks. They allegedly redid this, put in all new seats, all new everything. You know, it takes us forever to get anything done, and it's amazing how fast they could turn things around. Actually, the Clover Theater, they announced the building, they announced it would be built in February, and it opened in July. So this thing was built in 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah, you don't see anything. You don't see it's built 5 months. It's 80 years old and it's not falling apart. You don't see it. Well, it is falling apart, but structurally it's sound.
Yeah.
So it's pretty amazing there. And that's the guy on the far right. That's John Moffat. He owned the theater at that point, and they ran Moffat Theaters. They mostly ran black theaters in the South. And I think the Capri was their first white theater. And they owned it until he died. Then it went to the family, and we bought it from the family 10 years ago. We own it now.
Yeah.
So that's December 62. So, gosh, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, 60 years ago.
So much has changed.
Yeah. So it's actually been the Capri longer than it was the Clover. So I thought this was the opening film at the Capri. It's Picacho, if I speak Italian correctly, which I probably don't, 70. This is a 3-hour and 25-minute Italian film. They were opening as an art theater, and but you can see they picked it for a certain degree of flesh. The grand opening ad, Santa's there, opened December 21st. So this is their Christmas movie. A 3-hour Italian film, but new seats, new screen, new projection, new appointments throughout for your comfort and enjoyment. And then Sophia Loren. But if you read the little review over here by Arch McKay down the last paragraph, the 2 paragraphs. The movie which is currently at the Capri is Picacho 70, about women. A collection of 3 spicy tales about women, starring Anita Ekberg, Sophia Loren, and Remy Schneider. Certainly one of the brightest additions to the screen since Melina Mercouri. None of the stories is what you would call family-type adventure in filmmaking. The Capri will open to the public tonight with Picacho 70 as the feature. Fans of foreign films who like a healthy dash of sex in the films should see Picacho by all means. Those who blush easily may best see Disney's offering Downtown. And actually, the head cut off there at the bottom, that's Doris Day, who is not in the movie. She's in one of the wholesome movies, Downtown.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Once again, this ties into the Lady Chatterley's Lover, and then that, and so Capri Theater, the logo for the Capri Theater, that stays fairly stable, one form or another. In the heart of Oak Clover, though, formerly the Clover, and has the new address also, which came in 52.
Since we're still near the name change, we did get a question about how did the names of Clover and the Capri come about from Wednesday Offland?
Yeah. Clover is obvious because we're in Cloverdale. Capri was, I don't know specifically, but Capri was a very popular name for movie theaters from the early 60s to the early 70s. You'll find classic Capri theaters all over the country. And it just, I'm sure it has to do with the Isle of Capri and Italian foreign films being a very big part of the foreign film product available in America at that time. This period is when people were really discovering foreign films and going to them, and the Capri operators thought they could cash in on it. Trust me, they didn't get any. Don't start off with a 3-hour, 25-minute Italian movie and get people in by, they had abandoned art films very quickly by the time. I haven't pulled up the evidence thereof, but yeah, they I know they had Lawrence of Arabia in '64. That's 2 years, but yeah, if you like your 3 hour and 25-minute movies, there's Lawrence of Arabia for you. But, yeah, we as the Capri, we've never run Picacho 70. We've run Love Thy Neighbor. We actually have, it's back in storage right now, but we have the original poster for Love Thy Neighbor frame. We used to have it up in the lobby until we remodeled. I've never found a good Picacho 70 poster because the American ones kind of suck. And you know, I say this is 3 hours and 25 minutes. It's possible there was a shortened version for America, but the existing version now is 3 hours and 25 minutes. So that is what I'm going with. Nobody mentions the time and details like that. Something that were put into movie reviews then. So.
Very cool. Right, let's see what else we do. Oh, here we go.
Here we go. So this is where that all ties into, and, is part of our origin story. And they do spell it with an ER again, but District Attorney Jimmy Evans liked to go busting porn when it was time for re-election. In 1982, he busted the Capri Theater, showing a very censored version of Debbie Does Dallas. The theater was being operated then by the Martin chain, which became the Carmike chain, which eventually owned everything in Montgomery except us, and now was a couple of years ago bought up by AMC. So yeah, they busted the Capri, and then a couple of days later they busted the Jet Drive-In, and there was a couple who was at both busts, and they just wanted to see a movie. It's not in this story, but they did. And what became of that was, you know, so everybody pled guilty or whatever of misdemeanors. They busted the projectionists, they busted the managers, and they may have brought in a couple other people. That's how Jimmy liked to work. And hey, Jimmy may be watching. He's out there somewhere. I don't know. He can call in and can contest my story. But the result was these theaters. The result was the Capri agreed to show children's films, and to balance it out or something. You know, you can't make money showing children's films in 1982 because Montgomery hadn't quite been wired for cable yet, but video stores were around, and you know, things that video killed off were repertory theaters, children's theaters, and porn theaters. Things that people would rather just have in the privacy of their own home. And so this led to the Martin chain deciding to get rid of the theater, so they were just playing out their lease. And a group of people got together and formed the Capri Community Film Society. And in 1983, they took over the Capri Theater, which I think is that the next slide? Let's see. Yeah, so they had the grand opening in September 24, but before that, during the summer, they had free screenings at the theater to sort of introduce everybody to it. And the very first film they screened as their free screening was, think back, what did we mention?
Oh gosh.
This is where taking notes came in. The first one was the Philadelphia Story.
Oh yeah.
It ties all the way back to Katharine Hepburn there in 1941. So it came full circle. And the gala opening, like the Clover had, where they had a gala opening. And we ran the gala for, I don't know, 25 years or something. That was exhausting. But we did get to reopen, or the Capri Community Film Society reopened, and we've been running it since 1983. 2 years before I got here, and it's been moving along like that. I think is that the last slide, or did I throw in more? Yep, that was the last slide. So that's what I don't have any slides after 83, just because I didn't have the time, and obviously I could go on like this for a very long time. But we've shown, you know, well over 1,000 movies. We've had children's shows, we have classics, we have special events, we have the stuff at the museum, we have premieres, we have all sorts of things. So it's our objective to bring movies to Montgomery that probably wouldn't be playing at the major theaters. It goes through cycles of whether the major theaters plays the movies we play, and you know, for the last few years they've been in that cycle of hogging the commercial art films And we always do better if we play them again, better than they do, but the distributors still give it to them. And it's back to, you get what you can, you get what's available when you can get it. And that's sort of our booking thing. With COVID doing the job it's doing, the whole business of movie theaters is changing, is going to change, and we don't really have an idea how it's going to be when we come out of all this. But we have every intention of sticking around, and we're working on redoing the marquee and some of the interior in the next few months, we hope. We have lots of PPP equipment and supplies, and we're just waiting
for that green light.
Yeah, or whatever color the light.
Yeah, whatever color light.
The tunnel's a train, you know.
Oh yeah, waiting for it to come by. Yeah. So I mean, you kind of answered this already. So like, you know, choosing films, you know, what's available, and, you know, being geared towards showing independent and foreign films. And I'm guessing that will continue whenever you do get the green light, green train to reopen.
We have no idea. We have no intention of abandoning what we do. We'll just have to do it differently and do other things. You know, we have concerts and stuff. We have, you know, the art presentation on film series that Alice is doing. Those things have been very popular, and we want to continue and expand them, and certainly exploit the museum as much as we can, and exploit everybody and everything we can. But we intend to stay here in Cloverdale, and because we can't take the building with us. And I did fail to mention earlier when we were talking about Black theaters, in 1941 another theater opened in Montgomery, and that was the Clover Theater, which is now the Lakos Club over on Holt Street. But that opened in December, got in just before the war, and then, you know, didn't build theaters during the war. All the equipment was used for something else.
Right, got redirected.
Yeah, and for several years after the war, actually, too. It was we didn't get a new theater until 1948 with the Highland, unless the downtown Ritz was built in that period. I haven't found a building date for the downtown Ritz yet, but that one's gone. So
well, I'm sure you'll find it, and we'll have to have you back when you have more research for us.
They're all on their edges. Oh, when was the downtown Ritz built? And that's different from the Ritz on High Street. And when it was torn down in 1969 when they did the urban renewal. I know that much. And that too had just been raided for showing dirty movies. And the person in charge was our future landlord here. So he got arrested. So he also at one point, he took on and won I don't think it was Jimmy Evans, Last Tango in Paris, that showed here, you know, before we were doing it, but Jimmy Evans tried to stop that before it was shown a little, and our Harry English, our late deceased, our late landlord, he actually took it all the way up to the Alabama Supreme Court. So there's a history here.
Yeah, so there's a huge history, and, you know, doing so much between when you guys became the Capri, and even now during the pandemic. Obviously, both of our institutions were forced to close and cancel all of our scheduled programming. But in continuing our traditions of, you know, bringing, I guess, art to our audiences, we found new ways, just like you guys were doing before. We at the museum, we moved to posting monthly film recommendations beginning in April, and then your social media pages have been doing so much. It's so rich in content, from, you know, sharing updates to promoting online film screenings and festivals, posters like what we saw earlier of past screen films, the virtual cinema, watching movies online with you guys, promoting during June films with Black creators, actors, and inspirational figures. And then most recently, Stephen, this is for you. If you, since you like movie trivia, name that movie. Having a screen.
That's Eve, and Eve is at home right now, but Eve is still on the payroll. But she's been handling most of the social media because I loathe social media.
Yeah.
Social media, but she's been doing a good job of trying to keep people engaged. And I wrote my weekly letter about things, and unfortunately, none of that brings money in. But we're both nonprofits, and we know that we have to do fundraising and stuff later. But it's
Well, it's a good way to keep our audience engaged, even though they can't come to us. And you're not bringing in people and revenue for you. Still keeping people connected so they don't forget about us. And I know you probably get this a lot, but I work with docents and volunteers, and before we reopened, they were always saying how much they missed us and when we could reopen, and just really eager. And I feel like social media has kind of given them a little taste to make it through. So really commend Eve and your support of her doing that. So thank you. What else have you been up to during this time?
Oh well, we've been doing some repairs and stuff. Yesterday we just had a new screen put in. The other screen I think was put in 2002, so it's gotten a little old. I believe it was put in just before Big Fat Greek Wedding, our biggest film ever. How many people even remember that now, right? You watch it on video and it goes, why was this film popular? It's Love American Style stretched out for 2 hours. And people who come here know I don't like most of the films. So I feel free to criticize and make fun of the stuff we show. And they also know that if I like it, they're probably not going to. That's how things work around here. So yeah, as I said, we've thanks to a lot of generosity from a lot of people and PPP loans and grants, we've been able to keep even myself paid and do things like new screen, get some roof and repairs done, move forward on the marquee project of getting a new marquee. We're working with the architects now and that sort of thing. A lot of sitting around doing nothing, but at least I'm fortunate that I can leave my house, come to the theater, generally be the only person here, do nothing here, rather than sitting around in the house doing nothing there. But there's some basic things that just because we exist, we need to do, like pay electric bills, and we have to make sure the projectors are run a couple times a week or it'll die, and it costs $5,000 to replace that card if we let it die. So we have that going on. Things like the Old Cloverdale Association, the Cloverdale Wild Association, the neighborhood groups have been meeting here. So we try to have a little bit done. We keep the marquee on just to let everybody know we are still alive. And then they come by and ask, well, when are you going to open? It's like, I don't know. We were talking earlier, my new idea is to have infected only shows. And that way we don't have to worry about it. Just show your certificate that you have been infected and come see the movie. But I don't think that's going to fly. So we have to act as grown-up, responsible adults, which is sort of contrary to everything we believe, and and let this thing blow over, and hope everybody stays well, and we're trying to do our part to make sure everybody stays well.
We appreciate it. Thank you. And as we're wrapping up, I do want to remind everyone watching, if you have a question, please add it in the comments. We are watching and ready to ask them when you have them. I do want to ask, since you brought up that you don't like most movies shown, what has been your favorite or your top 3?
Oh, you mean here at the Capri?
Yeah.
Well, that will change on a daily basis.
How about today's top three?
Yeah, I should have thought of this because I should have seen this coming. Because we have a list of 1,000 theaters, 1,000 shows we show.
Well, you threw out that number, so just.
Mike Lee's Naked was a wonderful film that people came out of going, and it's not a film to make you happy. It's not a film you should be watching on TV. You have to be in a dark theater and a very dark place to enjoy this movie. One thing we didn't show, one film I actually really liked last year was Greta Gerwig, who I have a terrible crush on. Greta Gerwig's Little Women. Took my mommy and my sister to see it up in Virginia, and of course they had technical problems that I had to go tell them about and to tell them to fix. But that one, I'd never read Little Women. I've never seen any of the other many Little Women, and I thought the way that was handled was very good. So that would be one I'd recommend. That is generally happy. There's death and civil war, but hey,
Little Women.
Food looked good, and that sort of thing. 3, what? Geez, you would think. We did show Road Warrior once as a midnight show, so that one's always good. Road Warrior is just an almost perfect movie. It moves, which movies are supposed to do. There's not a lot of talking. And the last half-hour chase scene is just fabulous. And Fury Road was also very good too. We haven't run that. Before we closed, I was sort of hoping to run the Chrome version of that here during the summer, but maybe next summer. But so I try to be eclectic in my taste, and
definitely a wide range.
The Lars von Trier movies I've mostly liked. Those piss people off really good. And that was the Celebration, Dogma #1. There's a movie that once again involves child molestation, so you probably don't you're not going to it for laughs. But was the whole Dogma movement back in Dogma 95. So back in 1995 was a real interesting movement and produced a handful of really good films, and like everything else, a good number of bad ones.
And then real quick from Penny Weaver, to repeat the name of the first movie that you named. She didn't catch it.
The first Naked by Mike Lee. We've shown a lot of Mike Lee movies, and he's known for he doesn't write scripts, even though he keeps getting nominated and occasionally wins for best screenplay. He has the characters rehearse, the actors and the characters rehearse as the characters, and if they're not supposed to know something till a certain minute, they don't know it until that happens. And Secret and Lies, there was a wonderful scene in that. And probably his most accessible film is Topsy Turvy, the one about Gilbert and Sullivan.
Gotcha.
But he's an interesting filmmaker. We like to say we were the first theaters in the state to show Spike Lee, Ang Lee, and Mike Lee. So
just get all of them. Yeah, that's good. It's like a bingo game.
Yeah.
We do have a question from Taurus Sartorius. When you run the projector to make sure it's working, do you watch a whole movie or part of one? And if so, what film?
No. And so I did run Stop Making Sense earlier this summer just because we happen to have that and it doesn't have a key on it. Digital films, you have to have a key to get them started unless they make them that way. No, we just need to run the digital projectors. We just need to run to make sure there's electricity going through one of the boards that will recharge the battery that controls the key. If that battery dies, you can't get a key for the film because the board has died and you can't show movies. So, these theaters that have been closed for a long time, who knows what they're going to do with Chantilly. But the 35 projectors, the film projectors don't need that, but we haven't run film in many years now. And unfortunately, it is very sad to me that I doubt we will ever run 35 millimeter again. It's too expensive to ship it. There's very few prints being made, unless you're Christopher Nolan, you're not he's doing his in 70, but I think there's some 30, I've heard of 35 knockdowns, and there's a few drive-ins that I think might still show 35, but I wish it was all still 35, but it's not, and that's beyond my control.
So, Tara, I hope that answers your question. She says interesting maintenance needs. So yes, I think that's fascinating. Well, if there aren't any further questions, Martin, thank you so much for being with us tonight to talk about films at the Capri. And
last minute questions.
Last one. Before we head out, by Frank Gitcher. Comment on being the only theater in Alabama that showed The Last Temptation of Christ hurt us or helped us?
Helped us. It was painful at the time, but no, they haven't bothered us since then. And you probably weren't around for that, but the Capri and me personally were condemned by the mayor, the city council, and the governor. The governor held a rally against us. And at that time, it was the biggest film we ever showed. It was only topped later by Big Fat Greek Wedding. But and I had a flu the whole time, which really made it annoying. But we ran it for 2 weeks. Universal was no help whatsoever. And there was a 6 months controversy about it that was very tiring, lost a few board members, lost a few donors, but in the end, it established our independence and established that we are here to show movies and not to not show movies.
Heck yeah. On that note. Thank you for being with us. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight and asking your questions and leaving your comments. I hope if you're on Facebook, you've liked the Capri, their page. If you're on Instagram, follow them. And, thanks so much. And, let's stay connected and everyone do their part so we can have the Capri open again and we can enjoy films together again. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Are we all?